Welcome to the Monkey Knife Fight Week 15 preview of the Packers versus the Rams. Look, this game, 17 degrees at kickoff, the wind chill near 10. It's a night game, there's no sunlight, makes it feel even colder for those warm weather Rams coming off an improbable win. Not much motivation going into the holidays. Hey, the Packers at least, they can hang on to hope because they're mathematically alive for a playoff spot. Let's get right to the Monkey Knife Fight breakdown of this game, and let's talk quarterbacks. Can Baker Mayfield crack the 199.5 passing yards that he needs? Let's talk about this. So in Matthew Stafford's last three games, when he actually had Cooper Kupp and he was the quarterback, Stafford didn't even hit 190 yards in his last three games. Now Baker Mayfield comes in against the Raiders. He throws for 230 yards. Now look, almost 80 of those yards came on that crazy last drive of the game when the Raiders were handing out yards like candy and they were sleepwalking. So Mayfield ends up with a good yardage game. Now look, when we look at this game here, the Rams are a bottom four pass blocking unit, and Green Bay is middling in their pressure rate, but they can get after the quarterback, especially after a bye week. The cornerbacks for Green Bay, top 10 coverage unit. Now they play some soft zone a little too much, which is problematic. Now the Packers have held a few quarterbacks under 200 yards, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, and Zach Wilson. There are a few marginal quarterbacks that went over. Ryan Tannehill, Taylor Heineke just went over at 201 yards. Daniel Jones slightly over at 217. But look, the lack of quality weapons, facing a good defense, as long as Green Bay shows up mentally, Baker Mayfield is not touching this number. He's going less. Other side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers. His monkey knife fight number set at an impressive 230.5 yards. But here's the key to the game. First of all, no Aaron Donald for the Rams. A'Shawn Robinson, another defensive lineman on the injured reserve. Cornerback David Long often plays regularly on the outside. All three of them are out. So when people think Rams, they think defense, and they think great run defense. Not without Donald and Robinson. So Green Bay, look, Green Bay likes to run the ball, and they should be able to here. Now, when we look at Aaron Rodgers' passing numbers, he hasn't hit that 230-yard mark in his last four games, and he hasn't hit it in 6 of his last 7. And look, I don't see the Rams scoring many points here. I don't see them pushing a shootout. Rodgers will throw some. There'll be some play-action success, but he's not hitting that 235.5 yards. He's going less here.
Rodgers going less. What does that mean for Aaron Jones from a fantasy perspective and or rushing yards perspective tonight?
So for Aaron Jones, and his number is at 60.5 yards rushing on the ground and 15.5 fantasy points. The first question is, before the bye, he played a very light snap share. Well, the reason was he was in and out of the game. It was reported at once a shin injury. It was reported an ankle injury. The good news is that Aaron Jones was completely cleared from the injury report. That bye week probably just was what he needed. Now, before the injury, Jones had a significant snap share advantage over A.J. Dillon. He had played 69, 64, and 71 snaps in those last 3 games before he dealt with the injury. And Jones had been putting up 18.9 PPR points in 4 of his last 6 full games. So he was on a bit of a roll. Green Bay, they're not a good run blocking unit. And when people look at this matchup, as I said earlier, they're going to say, wow, the Rams lights out against the run. But I keep going back to the injuries. No Donald, no Robinson. With Jones being healthy, them probably playing with the lead, freezing cold temperatures, they're going to run the ball. So Aaron Jones will both have more than the 60.5 rush yards, and he probably finds the end zone in this game. So he is going to go more than the 15.5 fantasy points.
And does Christian Watson find the end zone again? It's been an incredible hot streak the last few games.
Oh, it's going to be so hard to bet against him, right? He has 8 touchdowns in his last 4 games. And those 8 touchdowns, on 17 touches. Like half of his touches are touchdowns. We know that's unsustainable. Randy Moss couldn't put up a rate like that over a period of time. But Do you ride the hot hand? Because we can't predict it ends tonight. He's only been targeted 29 times in those 4 games. So it's a solid 7 targets, but it's not great. And in those 4 games, he has 2 games with 48 yards exactly. And then the other 2 games were over 100. So he is kind of that boom bust commodity. What I see here, though, is the following. He's in that great spot with the play action game. We know they're going to run, but the play action is going to work. And again, no pass rush to worry about because the Rams are decimated with injuries. Jalen Ramsey plays a lot in the slot. Sometimes he'll chase a receiver, but he has not done well against downfield speed since the end of last year. So there is really no cornerback that's going to hold up if Watson goes deep. And the thing is, he has to hang onto the ball, right? He's inconsistent. His hands are not great. Rodgers is going to him. He catches many of them. But again, he's only, like I said earlier, he's only caught 17 of 29 targets. So as long as he holds onto the ball, which I think he will, he'll get that one long catch that's going to put him more than 50.5.
And who's the good go-to guy for the Rams? Is it Cam Akers?
That's the only chance they really have to stay competitive. And it's just a matter of how long they can utilize Akers. Because if the game gets out of hand, he'll get game scripted out. Sean McVay has not seemed to like to use him as a passing down back. A couple of years ago when he was healthy, he loved him in that role, but this year that seemed to have not been the case. Now, the matchup from the beginning of the game looks good. Packers give up a robust 5 yards per carry. And Akers, after a really poor start to the season, in his last 4 games, he's on the dot for 4 yards a carry. 200 yards, 50 yards a game, and he's gone over that 50 number, which is monkey knife fight number, 50.5 yards, and he has gone over that number twice in 4 games, which means he's gone under or less in 2 of those games. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how many plays the Rams offense runs here. I don't know how long they stay competitive. I think the freezing cold weather is going to test their mental resolve. I also think that Green Bay may just say, you know what? We don't respect these wide receivers. We're going to put an extra defender in the box and really dare Baker Mayfield to beat us. So I think that Cam Akers is less than 50.5 rushing yards. So as we wrap up this game, if we're going to do a touchdown dance, there are 3 players we should be looking at. Christian Watson, how do you bet against him? We just had 8 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Aaron Jones, whether he gets it done as a receiver or a runner, he should find the end zone. And of course, Cam Akers is their one shot of reliably getting in, get a pass interference in the end zone, early drive. If they move the ball and score once, it would be Akers. And the final prediction on this game, we really don't know where Green Bay is at mentally. They're coming out of a bye. They're mathematically alive, but they probably know they're not making the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, we never know quite where he's at, but at least it's a nationally televised game. And Rodgers does seem to care about how he's viewed. So I do think the Packers come out strong. They force a lead, and they force Baker Mayfield to throw. That usually doesn't end well unless you're playing the Raiders, and they're not. So I think the Packers end up winning this game 24-10, which makes them a great play at -7, and the under on the game, which is about 39 right now.